Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor S.P. Singh from Faculty of Management Studies, Gurukul Kangadi University, Haridwar. Today we are going to study Module 23 on use of literature in qualitative research. After reading this module, you should be able to understand use of literature about the topic of study, comprehend the use of theories, know the use of empirical literature, understand the use of methodological literature, comprehend the use of literature when writing about the study, know how and where to find the literature. The researchers often face the idea that the qualitative research does not require to begin from a review of the existing literature, and they can avoid this stage at the start of research. It is credulous to think that there are still new areas to explore where no publication has been done. That might have been the situation at the beginning of qualitative research when there were unexplored fields. However, after more than 100 years of systematic social research and decades of rediscovering qualitative research, it is difficult to identify an entirely unexplored area. Flick suggested that the researcher should use different forms of literature for the purpose of a qualitative study. These different forms of literature include theoretical literature on the topic being studied, empirical literature about the previous research in the field of study or like fields. Methodological literature tells how a researcher can do his research and how the selected method can be used. Theoretical and empirical literature establishes context, compare and generalize findings. Use of theoretical literature about the topic of study. The researcher should make himself conversant with the literature in the field of his study. He should read the existing writings about the social situation in the field he desires to conduct interviews or do observations. What is known about the people that he wants to interview. In a quantitative study, the researcher reviews the existing literature concerning the problem of his study, develops a hypothesis, and then proceeds to test these hypotheses. In qualitative research, the researcher uses insights and information flowing from the existing literature as context knowledge, which is used to visualize statements and observations in research in their context. Review of theoretical literature in the area of research should assist in obtaining information about knowledge about the issue in particular or the area in general. The theories used and discussed in particular area, concepts used or disputed about the issue, theoretical or methodological debates or controversies in the field, still open questions, the issues not yet been studied. Now we have a wide variety of models and explanatory approaches for detailed problems. Use of theories. There are different forms of relevant theories. Substantive theories. There are theories explaining the issue under study and inform about the state of the art of scientific knowledge and different forms. These theories may also inform about possible reasons, for example, for a disease like skin cancer and their reoccurrences and the ways of treatment, ways of dealing with it. This forms a part of the theoretical context that the researcher should read the literature about. When the focus is especially on people and the issue in a particular setting, it might be interesting to know the issue is specifically relevant in this setting. To find this information, the researcher will read the theoretical literature. Theory of social representation. The theory of social representation gives an idea about different forms of knowledge among lay people in different groups. It also provides ideas about how such knowledge is developed, transformed, and communicated. This provides the researcher a theoretical framework for conceptualization of the study. Episodic interviews. Episodic interview may be used to show how social representations have developed along the course of interviewees. This method comes with a particular theoretical understanding of the problems that can be studied with it. This theory focuses, for example, on biographical information. Use of empirical literature about previous research in the same or similar areas. A researcher, before undertaking an empirical research, should find out other researches in that or similar area. There should be a systematic search for other studies in the study area. These can be helpful in guiding the research what to do in his own research, how to design his research, and what questions to ask in an interview. If the available research is a good example, it can be used as an orientation of how to do own research. The review of empirical literature in an area of research may assist to search answer for such issues as the methodological traditions or controversies present. Any contradictory results and findings which can be taken as a starting point. Strauss and Corbin enumerate several ways of using the empirical literature. Concepts from the literature can be a source for making comparisons in data collected. The familiarity with relevant literature can increase sensitivity to subtle nuances in data. Accurate descriptions of reality helpful for understanding the researcher's own material can be derived from published descriptive materials. Existing philosophical and theoretical knowledge can inspire and give an orientation in the field and material. The literature can be a secondary source of data. For example, quotations from interviews in articles may complement the material. The literature can be used beforehand to formulate questions that help as a springboard in early interviews and observations. The literature may stimulate questions while the material is analyzed. The literature can suggest areas for theoretical sampling. The literature can be used for confirming findings or can be overcome by findings. These points refer to publications from scientific writing, research, and methodology. Non-technical literature like letters, biographies, and all sorts of documents can be used as primary data for supplementing other forms of data like interviews. Use of methodological literature. Before taking decision to use a specific method for the study, the researcher should read the relevant methodological literature. This overview can be obtained by reading a textbook or an introduction to the field. Some of the relevant journals may also be searched for publications in the last couple of years. Review of methodological literature in an area of research should assist to seek answers for such questions as what are the methodological traditions, alternatives or controversies here? Are there any contradictory ways of using the methods which the researcher could take as a starting point? In reading and writing the method, a review of the methodological literature in that area will assist the researcher and the readers of this research report to see his approach and findings in a wider context. Use of literature at the time of writing the study. It is also important to use the literature at the time of writing the study. In more extensive report, there should be a literature review. Hart gives a brief account of the contents of a review literature. Thus, the researcher should demonstrate in the way he presents the literature used in his study that he did a skillful search into the existing literature. Also, it should be evident that he has a good command of the subject area and that he understands the issues, the methods used, and the state of the art of research in his field. How and where to find the literature? A researcher can look to different places to search for relevant literature. In general, this will depend on the topic of their study. Usual library. If the researcher wants to find out whether his usual library holds the literature he is looking for, he can simply go to the library and check the catalog. This can be time consuming and frustrating if the book is not in stock. Internet. If the researcher has to find out which library holds the book he is looking for, he can try to obtain internet access to the library. Therefore, he should go to the home page of one or more libraries or use a link to several libraries at the same time. There he can find an exhaustive overview of the existing books or the information for completing his reference list. To get a book, he still has to go to the library, but he will not know where to go and whether it is available or has to be ordered first. Search engines. For journal articles, he can use search engines. This will lead him to the social sciences citation index, which can be searched for authors, titles, keywords and the like. If he wants to read full article, he needs to be registered or he can use the right to download it. Publication services. The researcher can also utilize some online publication services organized by publishing houses such as Sage. At online sagepub.com, he can search all journals published by this publisher, read the abstracts and get the exact reference dates for free. If he needs to read the full article, he has to be a subscriber to the service or the journal or buy the article from the home page or see whether his library has subscribed to the journal that published the article. The theoretical, methodological and empirical literature. The researcher also should make use of theoretical, methodological and empirical literature referring to the topic area and approach. This will help him to see what his material has to offer in a wider context. Inform him about how to do his research and tell him what problems to avoid. Internet offers many supporting services helping him along the way to finding the literature. Thus, a good review of the literature will be a substantial part of a research report. Friends, in this module you have studied use of literature about the topic of study, the use of theories, the use of empirical literature, use of methodological literature, use of literature when writing about the study, and how and where to find the literature. Thanks for visiting EPG Pathshala.